The design of your house is as important as the construction phase. For me personally, I'll say the design phase contributes about 50% to the success of your project. Hi everyone, my name is Emmanuel and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'll be telling you how to design your house in Nigeria. The design phase is as equally important as the construction phase. Some clients leave out on details on the design phase and they believe that the contractor or the engineer will do magic. The design phase is the first point of action where all the mistakes, all the adjustments, all the thoughts, creativities and experts could come in, after which the construction phase is just replication of what has been done in the design phase. So stay tuned and I'll tell you things you can do differently in the design of your building and things you can do to make your building the best dream home you desire. The first stage in designing your house in Nigeria will be to get your site plan. I've seen clients don't really have a professional site plan and they want to design their house. I know some reasons might be to cut costs, but I cannot overemphasize on the importance of having a site plan. A site plan is the map of your plot. It is used by engineers, by town planners, urban planners, and architects to know the existing site condition of your plot. This will enable them to know the boundary, the exact boundary of your plot, the exact size of your plot, and to know if there are existing features in your site, such as trees, existing walls, existing buildings, access road on your plot. This first stage is very, very important because when we, as the engineers or the architects, know the size, exact size and the shape of your plot and the existing infrastructure, possibly utilities or access road, this will help us to design your building effectively. If you don't have a site plan, the architect won't know exactly the plot of your land. So in some cases, your design or your building will be bigger than your plot size. So just measuring your site is not enough. I recommend, if you have the funds, you should do a professional site plan so that this can enable your architects or your designers to know how to fit your building into your plot and also make provisions for other things such as parking or play area or green areas. This is very important. If you want your job to be professionally done, it is important to take this stage seriously. Just going around sometimes you will see like commercial buildings such as shopping complexes. If you see the building comes straight and stops where the road is. Sometimes you wonder, how are the customers going to have parking space? So these are things that should be done in the design phase. If your architect knows the exact size of your land, they can have some setbacks and make arrangements in the drawings for parking and other emergency access, or even things like disabled access. This will enable them to plan effectively. So it is important for you to have a site plan which you can give to your architect or your designers to implement and make provisions, adequate provisions and adequate planning for other utilities. This is also very important in the approval stage. It is important for you to know your boundary because the site plan is going to give the boundary of the site. In some cases where there have been reported things like government demolitions going on, because in Nigeria, I think we have a culture sometimes where we try to utilize every land close to our plots, or every land, even people go as far as getting on the government land. Because sometimes there's this required setback from the government that you should have from your plot. So if your survey has been done, your plot survey has been done properly, it will show where the government utilities such as the overhead line, high tension lines. Normally you're not allowed to build under that high tension line. So you can know the exact site boundary so you don't encroach on government lands. Those part of your land that is in front of your land is not your land. You can just plant grasses there or do some things there, but not have building there. So some people not having a site plan, they go as far as building on government setbacks or on drainage lines, and this could lead to severe repercussions such as demolition. So this is very important for you to take note. The second thing to do when designing your house is to make a plan or to make a research or have a thought process. You should think, okay, I have 2 plots of land. What am I looking to do with this plot of land? Is the land in a commercial area? Is it in a residential area? Am I looking to build a residential house for my family? Or is the land in a commercial area, will it be best utilized for commercial purposes or for a commercial building? I think these thoughts are very important so that when you meet your architect, you have an idea of what you want to do. The meeting will be seamless with your architect or your designers. So you should think, let me give you an example. Let's say you're building a residential house for your family. You should think, okay, how many children am I planning to have? Or how many children do I currently have? What do I want the rooms to be like? Do I want them to be en suite? Do I want to have a playground for my family or for my children? Do I want to have a parking space for 2 cars or 3 cars? So this thing is very important in the design phase. So that way, the architect can be carried along on how the building is to be designed and to know your own needs. Because the architect is not designing randomly. He's designing and throwing more light on your current problem, which you are trying to solve. So if you are trying to solve a housing problem, a residential house problem, when you bring some ideas or some of your problems, he would now use his professional experiences over the years to bring that space to life. The third thing you also have to consider when designing your house is to have a budget. This is very, very, very important for you to know. Even from the top of your head, you can know like, okay, the finances I have at the moment, it will be only adequate for a bungalow. So there's no point of me stretching, my budget to build a duplex. Or possibly the land you have is not a lot. Because in some cases, if you have a very small land or a small family land, it might be best to build a duplex. So that way you can make adequate use of the land, because obviously you have a suspended floor. So it makes things easier because you can keep some other land for future development. You need to think about this in your budget. So it's important for you to just have a rough way of your finances. It doesn't have to be detailed. You just have to think, okay, roughly, the money I have is not going to be able to build a shopping complex. I should probably go for maybe something lesser than that, or it won't be able to build me a duplex. Let me go for a bungalow. Or you just think 7-bedroom duplex will be excessive. You could go for 4-bedroom duplex based on your finances. So this is very important for you to consider your budget, because finance comes before construction. You don't want to start construction and then you didn't think about your finances or your disposable income or your revenue, which you would use to achieve your building. So it's very important for you to think about the finance first before you go deep into the design. The fourth thing you need to do is to hire a professional architect or a professional designer. This is very, very important. People tend to neglect this part. Some people think that architectural design or architectural drawing is just for formality or just to get approval. But the truth is that architectural drawing is the building itself. In most cases, the engineers are constrained. It depends on the contract. You could have a traditional form of contract where you have a separate designer and you have a separate builder, engineer or contractor. Or you could have a design and build. In the case of design and build, things are a bit much more flexible. And you could start the building and you could complete the design on the way. But when you're having a separate architect and a separate engineer, in most cases in the drawings, even the architects, they don't want the design to be tempered. So they want everything in the drawing to be followed. Even if a change is to be done, it needs to be communicated to the architect and the client. So it's very, very important in this stage to hire a professional. The work of an architect is to bring a space to life. But there are a lot of things that go on in the architect's mind. There are things like there are rules of thumb in architecture. There are many things to consider. You need to consider natural lighting. You need to consider traffic flow. You need to think about the flow of traffic. Okay, people need to come in to the building from this side and exit the building from this side. Sometimes you see it in supermarkets. They have an exit door, they have an entry door. So these things are what a professional architect, over the years, have developed these skills to think like an architect. Because an architect solves problem basically that has to do with space, bringing space to life. Don't just carry your drawing and you go and give it to a student. Obviously there are students that could do a very good job, but I believe in giving someone that is very skilled. This stage is very, very important because, as I mentioned, the architect thinks about different things. He thinks about the sizes of the rooms. Is it going to be the normal size, standard room? He needs to think about the use of space. He needs to think about the floor to ceiling level. There are a lot of things. You don't want to have a lobby that is very narrow and can barely fit people. So all these things, the architect has studied this in the universities and has been taught by professors on the minimum you can have for things like the lobby, the minimum you can have for your room, all the minimum sizes for the windows. So all these things are things the architect considers. He considers the aesthetics part of it, because the work of an architect is to also make sure that the building is beautiful or aesthetically pleasing. So if you design your building and your building is not beautiful or your building is not nice, it's the architect that you need to hold, not the engineer. So the architect is more like a sculptor, but he's designing your building so that the engineer can pour concrete into it and bring your building to life. So that's how I'll put it. I don't know if it makes sense. I've seen this over time because I design buildings for people and manage the design process. I have a network of architects, which I consider some of them to be some of the best in the country. You have to know that the exposure of your architect determines the level of creativity and ingenuity he can offer in your design. If your architect is not well exposed to advanced designs, advanced concepts to look modern looks of building, it will be difficult for your architect to replicate that in your design. So this is very important, that you should consider giving your design to people that are very skilled, because the skill is not just developed in the university. The skill is developed over years and years and years of working with very reputable companies. So this is how the architect has developed his skills, his exposure, not just from the university, but also from experience. Some of the architects which I work with, we still work together up to this moment because I know the skill that they've got. I know their ability. I know their exposure. I know the sort of buildings they are capable of designing. There are many things your professional architect is going to consider. It's going to consider the type of look which you want to give your building. Do you want it to be a contemporary look, like modern buildings that have got either flat roof or shed roof? Do you want it to have a hip roof? Do you want it to have a gable roof? So these are all the things your professional architect will consider, and he will explode the ideas you already have. So this is how it's done basically. Fifth thing you have to do, communicate all your design needs to your architect. Obviously I've mentioned some of this already, but just to highlight more on it, you need to tell your architect everything you want in your building. He's also going to make provisions for some other things. But if you want your children to have a playground or you want to have adequate parking space, it is important for you to communicate this to your architect. And there's no problem if you have a bit of back and forth, but it's very important. Let him know the type of roof you want. If you're a person that fancy the hip roof, that's the one you have, triangular roof, let him know. If you like a hidden roof, such as the flat roof or maybe the shed roof, let him know. If you want a gable roof, let him know. There are different types of roof you have in architectural design. and he can put this into consideration. Let him know if the sizes of rooms that you want. Let him know the types of bathroom you want. Do you want ensuite bathroom with possibly a jacuzzi or something like that? You have to let him know all these things. Do you fancy having a garden in your building? Let him know. Or you like green areas, you like trees, you like to have an orchard in your building. And all this boils down to my initial points. If you already have a site plan, this will help the architect to fit everything in your building. I've seen a building that's currently been constructed. The plot of land, I don't think it's up to 2 plots of land. Well, I can tell you they were able to fit in 3 5-bedroom duplexes into probably less than 2 plots of land, and with parking spaces in each duplexes. The duplexes are entirely detached. So this is possible when a lot of planning and a lot of skill have been put into your design. So let your architect know, the things you want, and he's got lots of experiences, and he's probably going to give you recommendations and advices. Sixth thing you have to do is to review the conceptual drawing. During the design phase, there's a phase which we call the conceptual drawing, and there's a phase called the detailed drawing, where you have the working drawings. But in this conceptual phase, the architect or the designer has not got into great details with all the things he has designed. He has just done a rough sketch of how the building is going to look like. At this point, you can have another meeting with your architect just to finalize on things and to make sure everything is locked down before you progress into the detailed design. So it's important for you to review every details which the architect has put in his drawing or in his concept. Because in Nigeria here, there are a bit of cultural influence or cultural perspective in design. There are some people traditionally, they want their master bedroom to be the windows to be facing the gates. That's the main access gates of the building. This is because in Nigeria here, people tend to take the homeowner as the chief security officer of the house. So you need to know who is coming into your house or who is going out of your house, when your children are coming in and when they are going out. So culturally, most people like the master bedroom to be in the front of the building and facing the main gate or the access gate, so they can keep an eye on the building as the head of the family. Also things like the kitchen, culturally in Nigeria, people like the kitchen to be separate from the dining area. This is just the culture, this is how it's been. So all these things are things you just need to review and let the architect show you how he has designed the kitchen and the master's bedroom and the main lounge. So once you review these things and you're fine with everything, the 7th stage will be to progress to the detailed design. This is where the architects or the designer can progress into further details in completing the drawing. At this stage, everything is fine and everyone is happy with everything, and they can progress into concluding the bits and pieces of the design. The 8th thing you need to consider is, do you need all 4 working drawings? Because this depends on the scale of the project or the size of the project. Some buildings require complete 4 working drawings. What I mean is that the architectural drawing will be included in the design, the structural drawing will be included in the design, the mechanical drawing will also be included in the design, and the electrical drawing will also be included in the design. In most cases, when your building is more than a floor, let's say you have a story building or a duplex, if your building is not a bungalow, in most cases you will need the 4 working drawings. So except you are building a bungalow, you should consider having 4 of your drawings. This means architectural drawing, you are going to have another drawing designed by a structural engineer, another drawing designed by an electrical engineer, and another drawing designed by a mechanical engineer. This is managed entirely by the designer or by the architect in most cases, depending on your approach to your design. Anyways, the architectural drawing is the main drawing. The rest of the pieces, bits and pieces, they are just supplementary to the architectural drawing. So you should consider this. And especially it's very important for you to have your 4 working drawings. If your building is not a bungalow and you are building in an urban area, what I mean is that if you are not building in the middle of your village or in the middle of the bush, if you are building in town or in the city centers, it's very important for you to have these 4 working drawings if your building is not a bungalow. Even if your building is a bungalow, the urban planning approval will require these drawings, because for them to approve your drawings and your drawing has more than 1 floor, that is to say your building is a story building, they will need to have your 4 complete drawings before they can approve your design entirely. The 9th thing you need to consider is if you need your drawings sealed. Before your drawing go to approval, you need them to be sealed by certified engineers and certified architects. This is very important. Let's say you are building a shopping complex. You need your complete drawings, 4 of your drawings, completely drawn and sealed by a certified engineer. This means that the engineer has certified the building to be structurally sound. So this is very important. It's very important for you to know if your designs need to be sealed. This is where I come back to why you need to hire professionals, because if let's say you've spent money and given your drawings to random people to do, and they don't know the approval requirement, because like now the architect, which I manage, he knows the approval requirement, and we work, as a team to bring the design to life. So a professional will know the approval requirements in the design phase. So as they are designing the building, they have in mind, this is what the government requires of us. This is the minimum setbacks from the government site. So all these things are things professionals already know. So even if you need your buildings or your drawings sealed, there won't be much iterations or much problems with that. So make sure you know if you need your buildings to be sealed by certified engineers. Normally this could increase the cost of your design, because they are also putting their license and vetting the design process. So this is very important for you. The thing you need to do in the design phase is go through approval. Approval is very, very important. Not only does it help in letting the government know that your design is fit for purpose. For me, I also see the approval as a quality assurance or quality control procedure. That is to say, the approval council or the urban planning council could review your drawings, and if there's anything possibly the certified engineers or the designers missed out, they could flag it up, and in that way you could save your building in the case where there's been a major mistake or issue. So in most cases, when you're building in urban areas, your design needs to go through approval for the government to be aware and approve your drawings. So this is very important, especially when you're building in urban areas. Try to do your approval to make sure that everything has been sorted with the government, to make sure that in future the government doesn't come when you're constructing to give you problems, or in future, in rare cases where there have been cases of demolition, if your building has been approved, you could go to court and say the government certified this building and everything, the setbacks to be okay, and why are they coming back to demolish your building? So it's very important you should do your approval if your building is anywhere in the urban areas, except maybe your building is in your village, deep in your village, in your father's land, or somewhere the government has no interest in. But apart from that, I would highly recommend you do your approval as a quality control procedure. So you can see where all the points which I highlighted earlier terminates. It all terminates in the approval stage. If your building is approved, it means everything has been done as the government wants them to be and has been done by professionals. It's a different thing to design a building and just design a building where you construct. And it's a different thing to design a building that has been approved or that is going to be approved by government. Because if the design has not been done properly, you would end up getting issues and spending probably much more money to rectify the issues. I have personally managed a design that has gone through approval and the building has been constructed. So I have a reputation of designing buildings that can be approved by the government. Thank you very much for watching this video, and if you have any questions, do leave them in the comment section. Do like the video and subscribe to the channel for more videos on topics like this. I'll see you in the next one.